Christ is risen.
Truly he is risen. We are in the Russian village, and I saw it's called a Russian Lane, I believe. We just drove in.
This is
First of all, this is Father Constantine Semyanko.
Yeah.
So he is the rector of the presentation into the temple.
Yes, presentation. It's called. That's the way it was translated. It's really meeting of the Lord.
Meeting of the Lord. Yeah.
We've called it in the documents as presentation of Christ into the temple.
Stratford.
In Stratford, Connecticut, which is about 30 miles from here. And this is the town of Southbury, Connecticut. And in Southbury, Connecticut, the landmark, which is quite famous even for the locals, is the Russian village. Interestingly enough, if you go into the town hall of Southbury, or you go in any of the eating establishments, they have murals of our chapel here. They have paintings of our chapel. So this is
a local highlight.
Yes, this is definitely one of the local highlights of the town. This is the most, people are very proud of this. And even with the name Russian, they're still proud of it. This was put on the map, I believe in 1987. This became a Connecticut historical site. There's a sign.
Okay.
I'm not sure if that sign still is here. Yeah, they have a sign here. So Churaevka Village, National Register of Historic District.
Here it is. Yeah, settled in 1923.
Yeah. And it became a National Register, like I said, in 1987. And there was a big to-do at the time. There were still a few families, Russian families, who lived here. One of the most key persons who lived here was Ilya Lvovich Tolstoy, the son of the Count, the famous author. Yeah, he had a house here, and one of the streets in this town is called Tolstoy Lane. Mm-hmm. There's a Tolstoy Lane. There's a Pushkin Street, and this street is called Russian Village Road. And there's only one family who's really Russian still existing here to this day. But all these houses, most of the houses around here, were owned by Russians back in the 20s, and
it was kind of like dacha basic idea.
Yeah. So the Russians that settled here, some lived here longer because they had chicken farms.
Okay.
So that was the thing that they did. So like I said, in the 20s, in the 30s, this was a place for Russians to come out of New York to vacation here, to spend time in the rural country.
So yes, here is a brief story. I'm sure you can look it up on the internet as well.
This is good. This is pretty much as you'll read in the sign, one of the people who was a cultural driving force was Grigory Grebenshchikov, whose roots were actually from the Altai Mountains in the Siberian southern regions, and he was an author. He was a writer who wrote a long novel of many different books, maybe more than even a trilogy, called The Churaevka. So
yes,
George Grebenshchikov, wasn't Gregory, sorry. So it was so he wrote this book called The Churaevka. It was an epopeia. It was like a long saga about this family in the Altai Mountains. And so the name of the town comes from his novel, Churaevka, from the word Churaevka, the last name of his. I never read the book, unfortunately. I didn't even have it at home, and it's not available on the internet. But maybe someday we'll scan it out.
I think we can give it to you on the loan from the seminary, from the library, because we have most of his books probably there. Yeah. So if you ever care to get it, and the chapel itself is attached to Father Constantine's parish.
Right. It was earlier. It was built by the Russians who settled here. It was designed, the architect and the the person who came up with the design is actually Nikolai Rerich. So that's a famous name, and not only in the Christian world, as we know, and unfortunately because of that, we have people coming from New York because of the
special
movement, because of the philosophical and the spiritual movement.
Special experience.
The energy.
Right.
They say, well, we're spiritual energy, we have Christian energy here, but anyway, but the proportions of this chapel are perfect. I think the whole design really came out nice.
Yeah. And what precisely Rerich's part designing it?
That's the design. The design is his drawings, his design, his proportions. That was all his doings. So this was built as an answer to the destroying of Saint Holy Christ the Savior Cathedral.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
So when it was blown up, the Russians here said, we're going to respond to that by building. The largest church was destroyed. We're going to build a small church to answer that, and we're going to name it in the name of Saint Sergius of Radonezh, who was the collector of Russian lands, as something spiritual to connect us back to Russia. This was the spiritual idea behind building this, and in fact, this really collected people. This place right here really collected people to a point where people would come here. We'd have services back in the 30s and the 40s, and to a point where cultural people came from New York, and legend has it that they brought a grand piano for Rachmaninoff to give concerts in this little area right here for Russians to enjoy. So this was a place to meet.
Yes, I can see it. I definitely, undervalued it. I basically just expected to see some kind of designated spot, with basically like Russian lane and basically kiss goodbye. Yeah. But I mean, what you mentioned about rebuilding this chapel resonates with rebuilding Iveran chapels. There is Iveran chapel at the cemetery in Belgrade. Right. There was one in Harbin, and there was Christ Savior Church built on the 70th Street in New York, which is still there.
That's right.
So.
Yeah. Also to answer that.
Right.
So since I became a priest, blessed memory Metropolitan Lerion assigned me here.
Okay.
It was an interesting story. I can share the story how it all happened.
Please.
So the late Father Theodore, let me start even earlier. When the Russians were still around, a certain young man at the time with his mother bought a house in this vicinity. His name was at the time Dmitry Borisovich
Alexandrov?
Yeah, thank you, Alexandrov. And him and his mother were iconographers.
Okay.
And then he attended a seminary, he became a priest, and still continued his iconography work. And he has a house. We can go there later. We'll walk up to the house.
Okay.
Time.
Yes, absolutely.
No,
absolutely. I'm enjoying every instance of time here.
So when he lived here, he was assigned to keep, watch over the chapel. He would serve here, and at the time he was serving in the old believer kind of style, and that's what kind of. This chapel had a little influence from him being here, but nevertheless it never died out. And then when he became a bishop and he moved to Erie, his friend Father Theodore Shevtsov was assigned to be the overlooker of the chapel, and he served Moleben here. He would serve liturgy here occasionally, and then when he became older and it was hard for him to travel up here, and he wrote to the Metropolitan that he wants to be relieved from this position. And I got a wind of that. And they were going to assign the chapel to Mahalpak. And we had a priest.
No, I can see how both places are related, basically.
Right. To Mahalpak, and at certain times, Mahalpak had a very close ties with us. While we had, the small hermitage there with Father.
Constantine?
Yeah, it was before even Father Constantine came. No, it was way before Father Constantine. Before their Father Yaniki, it was Victorine.
Victorine, yeah.
Archimandrite Victorine. He was still in Ieramonach. He was very active, and he would come and he would support the Russians here. And so the ties between Mahopac but later on the ties kind of severed. And
it's not that close.
It's not that close. And the Russians who lived here, they frequented our church in Stratford. So the Russians that lived around here, they really, since this was only a temporary kind of or seasonal kind of a church, they would always travel to Stratford, to our parish. And this was actually weeks after I became a priest. Father Theodore told me that he's writing to the Metropolitan and he's requesting it to be attached to Mahopac. And I wrote to the Metropolitan. I said, you know, all the parishioners, all the people who live here, there was a few families who lived here at the time still. This is back in year 2010. I said, you know, the parishioners, they traveled down to Stratford. It would be, maybe you attach it to my father's church, Father Andrei's church. And no more than 3 days later, I get an ukaz that I'm assigned an nastoятель here. So, and this was in the beginning of late September. And right away, October 8th, we scheduled a service to serve liturgy here on Saint Sergius Avranovich, the fall Saint Sergius. So since then, we've been serving here 4 times a year at minimum.
Okay.
So we serve the 2 celebrations, the July and the October Saint Sergius. We serve always the 2nd day of Pascha and Dukhov Dень, 2nd day of Troitsa.
Yeah, I can see those, you know, those verbs that you have here. That's definitely this year's.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So, but then, you know, as time went on, people liked to come in here. So we try to serve through the summer. We try to serve all the Russian saints. We serve Saint Vladimir's here. We serve Saint Seraphim if we don't travel anywhere. We serve Boris and Gleb, Knягиня Olga. We try to serve all the Russian saints, you know, just to have this place still remembered, because people love coming here. We have early services. People stand outside. We use the chapel as the altar. If the weather's bad, everybody comes inside. So give me a second, I'm going to open up the accommodation line.
Sure.
So here we are inside the chapel. Like I said, this is we have a chance to serve here a few times a year. I mean, once we even served here on January 14th, St. Basil's liturgy. It was a warm winter, but we were able to serve because there's no electricity here, no water here, no heat here.
Right.
So it is what it is. It's really a summer church. And we still have the Tristechnik, the 3 candle. So, and there's, I think we should also just in the if you have a chance, over here, I'm going to open up the gospel because it has a nice little statement that maybe you can put on here.
Wow.
This was donated to the chapel.
Right. Proteirei Stachia, I cannot read his. And what is interesting, this is from Herkimer. Yeah, it's Herkimer, New York. Жертва. Yeah, very interesting. Yeah, 1932. So Stahi Borichevsky. So it's
just to
and still here. Yeah, that's
from you see the year of the publishing.
Yeah. This is what it's still 20th century, right? It's not.
Yeah. Yeah.
1900s.
And you know, we keep it as we can, and of course we bring the antiments here. We keep it here.
Right, that's
We
right.
bring it when we serve. And so this is the influence. What we see here is the influence of the old believers, of having the wall of the church imitating the iconostas.
Precisely.
We didn't have the Bespopovce, right?
Right,
We had priestless service. I mean, there's nothing behind the iconostas here. It's just there's a window which would have been behind the royal doors, but that's really the wall of the church, the stone wall.
You know, first time I saw this in the Soviet Union, I kind of was shocked because I mean, never saw an Orthodox church. Kind of mentally, you kind of would like to believe that there is something beyond this, behind this, and there is nothing.
Right.
It's just plastered on the wall.
Yeah.
That's really kind of brain twisting feeling for somebody who got used. But if you're growing up like that and take it for granted, that's your church.
That's your church.
That's how you know it.
Right. But you know, I think this was just because there was no real room to build a real iconostas.
Sure.
It was, you know, it's really the sizes to give you a concept. It's 14 by 14 feet. 14 feet by 14 feet, like a.
By any reason, or
no, just that I measured it one time because I needed to know the sizes. Because of the deeds and whatnot, you know, I had to go to the town hall, as I said, where I saw the mural. I had to do some legal things here, so I just wanted to, and then I measured the building just to be.
Right. Okay. And those are basically like reproductions.
Yes, these are yeah. So allegedly, and I may be wrong, but people have told me that these are reproductions or photographs of Velika Daniil's 12 major holidays, major feasts.
See, yeah.
So, and there was a family who retired here from New York, Vladimir Dmitrich Chistякov, and his late wife. They're both already deceased. His wife Svetlana Antonovna Chistyakova. He was of the same mind with Vladika Daniil. They were friends. They were very close friends. Even before his monasticism, before his priesthood, they were friends because they were neighbors living here in their summer homes. And so Vladimir Dmitrich, actually with his hands, built this iconostas under the direction of Vladika Daniil, or it was still it's just Dmitri at the time. But he used his lithographs to put them on. He mounted them on boards.
Right.
And actually,
makes sense.
Yeah, and actually at the same time, a few years later, after they put these up, he had another copy made for our church in Stratford. So we also had the same kind of holidays until we got the ones we have now, which were painted already and written in Moscow. Different size, of course, but anyway. So yeah, so this is we're blessed to have this. We're really blessed to have this. They have this this gem of a little church. Oh, one more thing. I think it says, Andrei, I think you want to.
Yeah.
This was actually it says Dmitri, then who became the bishop, Daniil. He was a Renaissance man.
Yes, he was
So this is he had in his home. He had a blacksmith.
A polymath. They use this particular.
So he actually made this on his hearth. He made this in his kuznetsa, in his smithery. And of course the design is perfect, and it's perfectly made for this altar. And of course he made all this too, just to make it stand here nicely. And so this is really a museum piece.
It is. Yes.
With all this work, and that's the way he was. He had to always bring everything to perfection.
Yeah. It's a beautiful window. Yes, there is some kind of atmosphere here. That's very appealing.
And so God willing, we're planning to serve here on Soul Saturday before Pentecost. And then, again, God willing, we'll serve here on Day of the Holy Spirit, second day of Pentecost.
Thank you for sharing this gem with us. Just Constantine, thank you. So you see this monument. This monument is called Svetogor, after a Russian legendary character from fairy tales. It was supposed to be huge, and so this stone monument to him is also big. Now it's somebody else's property, so we cannot really go there, so only we can see it from here. But this gives you idea about basically how people thought who were developing this settlement initially. This house that we are seeing, this used to be house of Father Dmitry Alexandrov, about whom Отец Constantine was telling us at the chapel. So, and Отец Constantine even visited this house when he was not yet a clergyman.
Yeah, so this brings us back to year about 1987. About a year and a half before Father Dmitry became a bishop. He was working as an iconographer. He was serving at the chapel occasionally, and the Thomas Sunday, the Sunday after Pascha, the tradition is to visit graves, visit cemeteries, and the last stop from the Stratford parish was to stop at the Russian cemetery here in, the cemetery where all the Russians were buried in Southbury. And I was accompanying my father, who was the priest, Father Andrei, to Southbury. And after all the panichidas that we served, the final stop in Churaevka would have been to go to the chapel and to sing the canon of Pascha. And so when we got there, we they opened it up. They were waiting for us, and Отец Dmitry came, and we started singing Christos Voskresie, Christ is risen, and then automatically in my brain I forgot to sing the canon of Pascha. I started singing the Stichira of Pascha. Okay, but since I was singing practically by myself, I decided to sing what I heard on the recording of Troicy Sergeva Lavra, which is simplified Znamenny Raspiev, the chant. I think they call it Zasimva Pustiny, but you can hear it on all the recordings that they put out. They have a simplified Znamenny, but they have certain parts of it. And so I sang that, a certain portion of that. And of course, Father Dmitry, being a perfectionist in every sense, he looked at me very puzzled, like what was I doing? And after we were done, he says, "You're coming to my house." He pulled out a cassette player and they recorded all the Stichira Paschi and the whole canon, sung with at the Znamenny chant from the way the old believers would sing it up to today. And so I had that recording, and it was just amazing. It was just amazing to have his voice on that. And recently, when we had all the technology, I was able to digitize it and put it on our Facebook page. And every Pascha, I kind of, remind people of that. They can hear Отец Dmitry at the time, or look at Daniil. He has a specific voice that people always say, "Oh, that's him singing." So we can go and I'll send you the MP3.
Right. I hope I will be able to connect actually to find it myself on Facebook, and actually I hopefully we will be able to connect it.
Yeah.
Right here in this recording.
Right. So this was it was a very edifying moment and very close moment to sit at the table with Отец Dmitry, who was of course an extraordinary man. He was an extraordinary man, and just another little story about him. Him and my father were roommates in seminary.
Wow.
They stayed in the Holy Trinity Monastery at the seminary there. They were actually lived in the same room, so they were friends. They were friends before being priests, and they would always see each other's opinions, and it was seen like two brothers getting together. So it was a very cherishing moment at the time, back in 1987, and very edifying for me. So this is the house where when he moved to Erie, he sold the house, bringing all his belongings to wherever he could. But yeah, a lot of fond memories.
Thank you. That's extraordinary. Thank you, Отец Constantine.
Глаз пятый, да воскреснет Бог, и разыдутся врази Его. Пасха священная нам днесь показася, Пасха новосвятая, Пасха таинственная, Пасха всечестная, Пасха Христа Избавителя, Пасха непорочная, Пасха великая, Пасха верных, Пасха двери райская нам отверзающая, Пасха всех освящающая верных, яко исчезает дым, да исчезну. Придите от видения жены, благовестницы, и Сиону рците, прими от нас радость благовещений, воскресения Христова. Красуйся и ликуй, и радуйся, Иерусалиме, Царя Христа узрев из гроба, яко жениха исходяща. Такода погибнут грешницы от лица Божия, а праведницы да возвеселятся. Мироносицы жены зело рано, предсташа гробу живодавца, и обретоша ангела на камени сидяща, и той провещаем сице глаголаше, что ищете живого с мертвыми, что плачете нетленного. Вот ли шедше проповедите учеником Его. Седи ниже сотвори Господь, возрадуемся и возвеселимся, вонь. Пасха красна, Пасха Господня, Пасха, Пасха всечестная, нам восия. Избавление скорби, ибо из гроба несть яко от черту Христос. Жены радости исполнила воля, проповедите апостолу. Слава Отцу и Сыну и Святому Духу, и ныне и присно и во веки веков. Аминь. Воскресенье день, и просветимся торжеством, и друг друга примем. Рцем, братья, и ненавидящим нас простимся воскресением, и таково запием. Христос воскресе из мертвых, смертью смерть поправ, несущим во гробе живот даровав. Христос воскресе из мертвых, смертью на смерть наступи, и гробным живот даровав. Христос воскрес из мертвых, смертью на смерть наступи, и гробным живот даровав. Христос воскрес из мертвых, смертью на смерть наступи, и гробным живот даровав.